my name's Julian. I work in law. I'm a solicitor. I think that within the legal profession, women are treated mostly equally. I think that the sexism that there is, and there is plenty of it, is generally unconscious. So, for example, a total lack of flexibility in most big law firms as regards working hours. Barristers' chambers will often still charge them tenancy fees whilst they are on maternity leave, which is obviously not very women-friendly.
My name's Jane, I'm a magazine editor, and I'm a feminist, but I don't experience any sexism in the workplace. I work for some customer publishing magazines. I used to work in London for mainstream news titles, and again, no, didn't really see sexism even in London in big Richard Desmond type corporations, didn't see it. I think it depends. I think if you're in broadcast media, I mean, you just have to look at the radio and the television, and it's wall-to-wall men. But in publishing, I think it's more women, maybe 50-50. But I think it is clearly split in mostly editorial as women and mostly design as men. That's quite noticeable.
My name is Zoe. I was a project officer working on kind of mapping of cycle projects and sustainable transport in London. I was one of 2 women in a team of 7, but we worked with a lot of councils, and a lot of my colleagues in councils were middle-aged men, so it was quite a very kind of techie middle-aged men. So, and there was an awful lot of kind of, we'd turn up to have meetings with them, and they'd assume that we were there to kind of serve the tea, or like that we were like far more junior than anybody else, just because we were young women.
My name is Mary Ann Stevenson. I'm a freelance consultant. Most of the work that I do is in women's equality and human rights in kind of public and voluntary sectors. Political lobbying, certainly if it's Westminster focused, there are quite a few younger women in it, but as women get older and have children, they tend to move into other sectors just because the hours involved, you know, the kind of late nights, you're working around a kind of parliamentary timetable, so the problems for women in elected politics are kind of the same for women lobbyists.
I'm Mary. I work in a bar. It's kind of a club sort of bar. I think like with bar work, you get this kind of like a certain point in the night, people get a presumption that you're working and you clearly want to go home with someone, and them leaning over the bar and trying to kiss you is clearly the best come on in the world, and you're polite, no. It just doesn't get comprehended at all, and they look at you and go, what does this answer mean? And then you go and serve someone else and they go away.
Well, I work in local authority, actually. I work in local government, and formally women are treated very well. You know, I work part-time. The career structure's there. It's one of the few areas where you can actually progress up the ladder, and you have flexi time, and you have, nobody gives me any grief for, you know, taking time off to go to school, to, you know, go to assemblies and so on, and you can work at home if your kids are ill. So it's brilliant, really, really good. If you assume that brilliance is a workplace which is based on somebody having a wife, you know, that it is brilliant within the confines of the way the workplace is structured. And the confines of the way the workplace is structured is that you do 37 hours a week. That's the norm. And you've got a wife at home who will look after your domestic concerns and your childcare. Within that, they try and make your life as easy as possible. The problem is that actually I don't want the workplace to be structured like that in the first place. Yes, you can have great conditions, but it's only when you actually go to the root and branch of it and change the actual way it's structured that women can function. Because that's borne out by the actual figures of women at the top. Yes, you will get more women in executive positions than you will do in the private sector, but it's still dominated by men. And if we had an equal workplace, you'd have 50% of women at the top, because they don't have to fit themselves in to a structure which is designed for men, basically.
My name's Julie, and I'm a sign language interpreter.
My name's Ali, I'm a sign language interpreter as well.
about 90% female.
Yeah, it's dominated by women.
Probably one of the few professions. Historically, a lot of interpreters came out of caring professions.
Yes.
And maybe that's where the women are coming, but that's not necessarily true today, so I don't know. But it still attracts more women. It pays well, so I'm not quite sure why men are not interested.
Why men are not interested.
But interestingly, don't you think, there's a hierarchy even in our profession,
I
even
was
though
going to
it's
say that, actually.
90%.
That you can, it's probably an unspoken thing, but I hesitate to use the word the glitterati, but some of the better known celebrity type, it feels a bit harsh really, because they're good interpreters, but tend to be men. Some of the ones that operate at the very highest end of the profession, a lot of them tend to be men. Higher level, more media exposure, higher level work, international conferences, a lot of court work, that sort of thing. You're much more likely to find men there.
In our profession, they did a pay salaries survey about 3-4 years ago, and men tend to charge. Most of us are freelance. Men tend to charge a lot more. They're a lot more confident about negotiating their fees. They don't.
This is what I charge, and that's
this is take it or leave it. Whereas when you talk to women, also men are a lot more in our profession. Women don't really talk about it as much as I think they just do it and get on with it. Men, and they keep their self-worth and value. Even in this climate, we still hear that I think a lot of women would reduce their fees beyond a male interpreter saying, oh yeah, I'll knock 50 quid off. I doubt that would happen as much.
Yeah.